Yoda's plan of utilizing his death troopers had worked out, as more ports were captured and secured to unload more troops, as technological differences were staggering. Fighter pilots complained to their higher-ups about being sent into suicide missions. Many countries still use biplanes from the Great War, and those were simply no match for the fast TIE fighters. Battles in the air were always one-sided. It did not take long before the biplanes fell out of the sky like rain. For many, the engagements meant death, but a few lucky ones got away safely by pulling their parachute. And even when it did not end up in a skirmish, the planes were too slow to intercept. If the enemy could develop bombers with the same speed, the outcome would be disastrous for Earth. The wrecks and heaps of corpses was but a mere taste of what Earth could expect if it did not make technological advances soon, for only a handful made it back to base after a battle was fought. But there were nations who possessed more advanced aircraft. The latest in revolutionary technology brought to light in the 30s, but alas, these also proved inferior. Though they were more capable of keeping up with the enemy fighters, their maneuverability and weapons were lacking. If they managed to cut off enemy TIE fighters, they often fell prey to the planes, but this was a rare occasion. Air assaults between these two forces proved somewhat more successful, but dominance in the air was far from established. In response, Earth sent its best engineers to come up with new vehicles, the first being a massive bomber to demolish taken territories by the Death Troopers. But it did not stop there, as newer, faster, and more efficient models were on the horizon. Some would be able to be introduced in the next coming year, while others needed more time. And there were even engineers looking at the far future, with blueprints of so-called jet-powered aircraft. But many other engineers mocked this idea, and said that would be too complicated. But air vehicles was not the only concern of Earth when it came to technology. Its artillery and armor were also lacking and needed to be upgraded quickly to stand a chance. German engineers aimed to increase the firepower and rate of their flak to keep up with the TIE fighters, but this again would require time, which Earth did not have much of left. And then, Supreme Führer Yoda made his boldest move yet. He executed Order 6666, which introduced the Earth to Yoda's clone armies. They were capable of dropping large amount of units quickly all over the surface. But the dropships were slower than the TIEs, making them more vulnerable to flak. The clones therefore were forced to deploy away from the major cities. The snowy plains of Eastern Europe set the scene for one of the first battles fought. The clones were accompanied by a never-before-seen type of walker. It was huge and powerful, but slower than the AT-PT previously seen. The towering size induced fear into the infantry, but this made them an easy target for the artillery too. Once again, Earth showed its muscles by blowing large enemy groups to pieces with its bouldering artillery. But the clones had reinforcements and walkers that were plentiful. As they came closer, more and more of the Earth soldiers fell. The artillery was able to prevent the walkers from crossing the frozen river, but it was only a matter of time before their defense would collapse. The open terrain worked too much in the favor of the walkers, which unleashed devastating barrages of rockets into the people of Earth. The artillery were like sitting ducks in the open. As only a few artillery pieces were left, The fighting spirits of the present troops began to waver. The front defenses had collapsed, and the clones started to make their push. As they crossed the river, the rear trenches still proved some resistance, but were quickly cleared out by the walkers' rockets. In the end, many hid in the trenches and prayed, but the walkers showed no mercy, and the first battles fought in Europe went to the clones. But it was a different story in the Pacific. The small pieces of land were often covered with anti-air, meaning the clones needed to be dropped at the beach. But the people of Earth had set up defenses there as well, meaning their LZ was dangerous. The infantry in the trenches were pinned down by the large number of clones, but the short distance made them better targets for the static machine gunners. A particular American machine gunner by the name of Florian Davidson was able to hold as his deadly accuracy took out troopers left and right. But it was when he had to reload that an opening was presented, and he was fatally shot in the chest. The beach was about to fall, and the clones headed into the trenches themselves. They rooted out the nearby Japanese soldiers with grenades, only to shoot those who tried to escape the blast radius. And so the beach was theirs, but the clones received a rude wake-up call when they tried to head inward the next morning. The rocks and mountains were secured and covered with defensive positions. The coalition of Earths were dug in well, had the high ground, and could take out the clones from a great distance. Rows of machine guns and artillery avenged their fallen comrades from the previous battle. The thick jungle and rocky hills made it difficult for the vehicles to maneuver. All the clones could do was lay in the grass and take down targets one by one, but their white color made them easy to spot against the green background. There seemed no way up the hill, and the artillery even pushed them back. Many clones were wounded and scattered, dislocated from their squad leader. The soldiers of Earth felt that things were starting to turn, and that they were on the brink of victory. Their artillery continued at a relentless pace, leaving behind piles of bodies and craters. The clones realized they could not take the hill with the remaining force, and their retreat was given. Yoda now realized the importance of the Pacific Islands. They were difficult to access and easy to defend. If they were able to capture one, it would be very difficult for Earth to take it back. Yoda needed to strike again, but he had to do so before they put defensive bunkers and land forts on the islands. He ordered his engineers to make a new, more powerful walker. He would send in a larger force, and was sure that next time he would claim an island for himself.